Wednesday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. I hope you're having a good day getting ready for Thanksgiving. Browns back on the practice field out in Berea. Getting ready for a longer week this week. Monday night game against the Broncos out in Denver. Still kind of talking a little bit about that Steelers win. Jameis Winston, quarterback for the Browns, mic'd up for the game against the Steelers. Take a listen just to the pregame, and you'll understand why he's been such a popular teammate wherever he's been.
Out here playing some football on Thursday night. Yes! Yes! Oh my gosh! And we out here, we outside, my first snow game. E, let's get it. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Touchdowns out here. Let us know some touchdowns. A boy from Alabama. I never thought I'd play in some snow.
Your first snow game?
Heck yeah.
You said yeah?
Yes.
Your whole life?
I'm from Alabama, man. Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Love you.
Oh, what a fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey! It ain't a greater night than tonight, man. It ain't a greater night than tonight. Let's take advantage of this opportunity. One play at a time. One play at a time. Nigga lie. Oh my goodness. I know Batman been waiting for this. I ain't never played in the freaking snow before, but I know one thing, we're gonna make some snow angels by dominating the line of scrimmage.
Be you, okay? Be you. I want to see some smiles from you too, okay?
Okay, I got you. Yes, sir. Yes. I'm smiling. I'm always smiling. Here we go. Trenches. You the best for a reason. Trenches. It's about the trenches. It's the trenches. The trenches the only thing that matters.
With that, let's welcome in G. Bush from 92.3 The Fan, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. G. Bush, you hear from everybody. The energy is genuine. And you know what? You kind of need that in situations like the Browns are in. And he's not talking about it being cold. He's talking about let's go out and play football.
Here I am on a day before Thanksgiving. And I got the beautiful opportunity to talk to the beautiful people of Cleveland about football. I love it. He got me inspired. I know I'm not a minister, but you can see this as a minister's hat that I got on. I'm excited about this. This is why, this is what football is all about. This is team sports at its finest. When you get a guy who's genuinely excited about the opportunity to go out there and play a football game and try to win a game with his teammates, his colleagues, his friends, his family, man, that enthusiasm is that is so infectious. That goes through each and every person's veins. Right there, I know good and well. I G. Bush had a lot of surgeries, man. I had 17 of them, but I felt like just listening to that, I got 3 more snaps in me. I felt I was a defensive end coming off the line. When he said trenches, there's only that matters, I almost took my hat off and was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to get down in the stance. And then I realized that, yeah, we're not going to do that. But, man, this guy is a true leader. And when you get an opportunity to play with a person like that, it's infectious. You don't want the season to end. And it's not a coincidence that your receivers are now catching the football. It's no coincidence that your offensive line is blocking one of the better games it blocked with TJ Watt getting shut out last week in the snow. It's no coincidence that the team is rallying around. You had an opportunity to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. And I understand it, people. I get it. I know we've been scorned. We've had bad relationships with quarterbacks. We've wanted to do the work with so many people. We've gone to the gambit and the list of all those individuals who didn't work out here in Cleveland. But I'm gonna tell you something, man. Don't miss this opportunity. Don't miss an opportunity to give this guy an opportunity to earn your respect, earn your praise, earn your cheers, and earn the right to possibly be a guy that could be the Cleveland Browns quarterback for whatever time it is. We don't got to look at it as 2 years, 3 years, 1 year. Hey, listen, I'm fully invested in seeing what Jameis Winston is going to do each and every week. And every Browns fan should be tuned in, not because we're going to the playoffs, But to see if this can turn into something special for the Cleveland Browns, and I'm just excited to watch him play the rest of the year.
All right, this is from the Bleacher Report, 2025 NFL QB Carousel predictions. Jameis Winston and Deshaun Watson both return to the Browns. I'm sure they'll do their best to trade Watson, but this guy's become toxic in every way. They're stuck paying him right now, so they might as well let him fight it out with Winston. That said, I'd expect Winston to enter camp as the clear-cut number one. We both know nobody's trading for Deshaun Watson, not with that contract, not the way he's played, not coming off of 2 years where he's had significant injuries. They're stuck with him. So, yeah, I think Winston, you draft a guy. I wouldn't draft a guy in the first round, I don't think, unless through your evaluation process somebody kind of skyrockets. But I just don't see him right now in the college game.
Yeah, I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now. I talked about it on the Ultimate Browns podcast, and I said, look, when you look at what's available to you in the draft, this team has a lot of holes. And when you're looking to try to get a quarterback, sometimes you need a quarterback, but a quarterback's not available to you. So when you look at this class, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, those guys right there are going to be top 3 picks, right? Those guys are going to be guys that are taken off the board immediately. And so you're right now 3-8. Right now, if the season stopped right now, the Browns have the 8th overall pick. But just given what we talked about in Jameis Winston a couple of seconds ago, is the Browns are going to win some more football games. If they get a couple more wins, that squarely puts you outside of the realm of possibility of getting one of the top quarterbacks. You go down the gambit of the list of free agents that are available. Jameis Winston is one of the names on the 2025 free agent list. But you got getting names like Sam Darnold, who I don't know if they're going to really let Sam Darnold truly walk. And J.J. McCarthy's coming off of ACL surgery. You got guys like Shane Buechele, Jacoby Brissett. You got guys that Andy Dalton's of the world. All these names that you've had before. And Jameis Winston is a guy who's already in your building. He's already known the coaching staff. He already knows the playbook. He's already being a leader on your team right now. And he's giving you a sample size of what he can do against AFC North teams like Pittsburgh and the Baltimore Ravens. So for me, Deshaun Watson will be on this team because if they cut him, it's almost a $200 million cap hit combined over the next couple of years. And the Browns can't field a roster without pushing his contract back, or at least having him on the roster and just making a bunch of money until it expires. So they're not going to cut him. He's going to be on that roster. But as far as I'm concerned, the sample size is 4 games, but Jameis Winston has already done things Deshaun Watson couldn't. He's already put up a certain amount of numbers. He's already won the locker room over. And one thing the Cleveland Browns can't do is as soon as Deshaun Watson comes in, just stick him back into the starting role and think people aren't gonna have an issue with that.
All right, as you might imagine, plenty of folks talking about Jameis Winston. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave, it's Bob Chicago. Hey, man, love the show. Looks like we're going to be in another quarterback-looking season next year. I really think Winston has played himself good enough to be that bridge quarterback, or at least give him a start for a year or two. Bring in some guy on the draft. I don't necessarily think we need to draft high. I think we need to try to look at the project. I'd like to see someone about 6'4", 230 range, that's got a good arm, maybe try to work with him. Stefanski seems to work good with quarterbacks to see what we can do with some kid, or even possibly this Daniel Jones kid. I mean, we could bring him to the practice squad, couldn't we, this year? Kind of evaluate him to see if we actually want to try to bring him on as a backup quarterback next year. I mean, he's only 27 years old. He's got a 64.1% completion rating through his career. Maybe kick the tires on him. I'm not saying he's going to be our starting quarterback next year, but maybe we can build something there. Just my thoughts. What do you think? Go Browns. Woof, woof.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. G. Bush, he signed with the Minnesota Vikings, and he was looking for a quarterback-friendly thing. So Jones, and again, that's a one-year deal. You've tried fitting an offense around Deshaun Watson. We've seen an offense that Kevin Stefanski runs. It's pretty good. if Kevin Stefanski is in fact going to be here, like we've heard he's likely to be, go find a quarterback that he likes.
Yeah, look. Daniel Jones. I'm not a big Daniel Jones guy. I think sometimes he's already off the board a little bit here. But for me, I always go back to this. You gotta. So I'll explain this in a little better terms, so I can put yourself in Kevin Stefanski's feet, and it'll kind of answer the question the way I'm thinking about bringing in new people. So Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, we just talked last week, and one of the big things was people talking about Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are safe with some of the things that they were able to do against the Pittsburgh Steelers and win that football game, and basically they're going to be safe for a year. So the person who helped you be safe at quarterback was Jameis Winston. Secondly, if you've just come off a bad year where you had a bunch of things go wrong with Deshaun Watson, he gets injured, you give up the play calling to Ken Dorsey, and you run across something like Jameis Winston, and you're like, okay, cool, we can win with this type of play at quarterback. Why would you then swap out Jameis Winston and then bring in another bridge quarterback or somebody else and go through the same situation again? And the same situation is you got to find a guy who fits your system. You got to figure out what that guy likes to do best. How can we get him comfortable? 3, he has to learn the offense. How many times have we've gone back and forth about, does he know the offense? If he's comfortable in the offense, is the offense tailored to him? And then you started off slow this year. Going into next year, under no certain circumstances can you be 1-4, 1-5, or 0 something starting the season, because guess what's going to happen? You got a mulligan this year. They're not going to give you a mulligan next year. So you better come out and maximize everything that you can next year and get off to a good start. And I just don't believe bringing in another quarterback that needs to have all of those things situated perfectly for you to have success. I would rather just go with the guy that knows my voice, knows the offense, the team is around him, and I know what his strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities are because I've had him on my roster. Don't overthink it, people. Just if you got something and it looked like it's working a little bit, do not go out doing extra stuff just to be extra.
All right, Myles Garrett, again, had a great game. He was, in fact, named Defensive Player of the Week for his performance in the AFC. For his performance Thursday night against the Steelers, 3 sacks in the game, created havoc pretty much all night long. Kevin Stefanski asked about Garrett's performance today.
It's great. We talk so much, Mary Kay, about individual accolades are tremendous. We want our guys to be recognized. The nice part is it also reflects well on your teammates. So happy for Myles, and also recognize that it takes everybody to achieve those. But what Myles is doing, play in and play out, game in and game out, with the amount of attention that he gets play in and play out is pretty impressive. I mean, if you're asking me, yes, I don't have a vote, but I think, and I made this point the other day, what he's able to accomplish with the amount of attention that he gets is truly impressive. It's like a degree of difficulty type thing. So for him to produce when they're trying everything in their power to make sure he doesn't wreck the game is again, running out of superlatives.
And G. Bush, we talked about that, last week. There's some people will, he's disappearing, and you know what? He's getting chipped, double teamed, sometimes triple teamed. They run away from him, they roll away from him, and still he finds a way to help, make an impact. I think it's 8 straight years with 10 sacks now.
It's crazy. I saw another stat that he needs 1.5 sacks to become the fastest player, or the youngest player to reach 100 sacks. So, the production is there. I think sometimes when you get people that are that athletic and that gifted, kind of like Shaq, he's so big and he's so strong that when you mention the best players, or when you mention players, sometimes you just forget about it because he's so physically dominating and imposing, you don't have a frame of reference for it. So, sometimes you have to go back and watch how many games Myles Garrett just does stuff that you don't see nobody else do. I mean, he jumped over some people and blocked the field goal last year. Like, the dude just does this stuff with triple teams, double teams. The protection is slid his way, and he's going against the best of the best. He's going against all pros, and he's still getting home. He's still getting tackles for loss. He's still getting no sacks. So for us, I just think sometimes we get tired of giving people high praise. So sometimes we feel like we have to temper our praise a little bit. Like, for 5 to 7 years, LeBron James was the best player on the planet. Nobody else should have been getting no votes. Nobody should have been getting no all in the NBA, nothing. LeBron James was the most dominant. He went to all these finals, but we found a way to give Derrick Rose MVPs. We found a way to give guys who wasn't even on the same platform and on the same stratosphere as LeBron James. So sometimes I think, it's we get to the point where we're like, okay, well, there's Micah Parsons, TJ Watt's a good rusher. Let's compare him to Myles Garrett, when in reality, Myles Garrett he's a more physically gifted player. And I think sometimes we take that for granted a little bit.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout as we go to break. Browns have designated rookie cornerback Miles Harden to return to practice. It opens up his 21-day window. He's been on IR with a shin injury since September 12th. So we'll see if they activate him. They got 3 weeks to do it. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. G. Bush and I talking Browns when we return. Stay with us.
I just picked up all the Ohio Lottery holiday scratch-offs.
They're multiplying.
Yeah, multiplying. With the chance to multiply my prize by 200 times with holiday bonus millions.
No, they're multiplying.
Oh, you're in a daze.
A holidays.
Snap out of it, because even if we don't win instantly, all the holiday games offer a second chance to win up to 1,000 times the price of the ticket.
Wait, did you say up to 1,000 times?
Sure did.
We continue talking Browns with Garrett Bush from 92.3 The Fan, the Barbershop, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
After this season, I already know that the staff will have another revamping again, but this time it'll be in the front office and on the offensive side of the ball and special teams. I know Bubba will be gone after this year. Ken Dorsey might be gone, and I think we should get Clint. I think he's revitalized his father's offense, which is what Kevin likes to run, the Kubiak offense. So I think it'll be the evolution of Kevin Stefanski's offense, which should come back. I think the Ken Dorsey experiment is kind of over. Andy Dickerson, if we even keep him, he could work back with the same run blocking schemes that he's been accustomed to getting great reviews about.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. G. Bush, the Clint Kubiak thing is interesting. I wouldn't be opposed to it. There might be some that thinks it's too similar, but whatever you need to do, the offense you tried to trot out there, don't do that again. We've seen that. Don't do that again.
That's not it. And this is tricky because I think this is going to be an identity thing. They tried to run that offense where it was spread and they were throwing the ball all around. Some of the running schemes weren't there up front. A lot of the different ways they were trying to scheme up the run just weren't working. They were trying to run vertical routes, but it didn't seem like, the timing wasn't all the way together. You never really had the type of personnel to stretch the field. And now you're kind of, wondering, who's going to call the plays and what's going to happen. You give Ken Dorsey control of the play calling. However, Kevin Stefanski traditionally was the guy who was calling these plays, and he gave it up. So, are they going to move another coordinator and come get another coordinator, or are they going to hire one and Kevin Stefanski is going to take the mantle? All of this stuff is in flux. I think one thing that we got to look at is there's two things at play here. One is, can they make sure that they're competitive and they put up a good showing in these last few games? because I believe if you can play these last few games, there might be an argument for saying, okay, well, if we're going to keep Jameis Winston because he's playing well, Ken Dorsey's, had to be coaching well, right? He had to be getting them, and the offense is actually working. So we'll have to evaluate that. And also, we might be an evaluation of what we saw him under what Dorsey was doing. What if you went back to more of the play action type stuff? Can Jameis Winston do some of those things? So, there's a lot to be left in the air, and there's a lot of stuff that's not settled. And that's why these games matter. Even though the Browns are 3-8, there's a lot of evaluations all ongoing. These evaluations are going to continue to happen, and they should be happening because that's what we're looking at right now to figure out some of the question marks, to figure out how do we get this thing back on track so that we're not having a major rebuild where we can just retool some stuff, rethink some of our strategies and some of our schemes, and get this team back to being a playoff caliber team.
So one guy that figures to have some revenge on his mind coming Monday night is Jerry Jeudy, and he's played pretty well, especially with Jameis Winston at quarterback. Last 4 games, 24 catches, averaging just under 95 yards per game. 17 catches, 10-plus yards, 15.8 yards per reception. Kevin Stefanski on Jerry Jeudy's versatility as a receiver and what that does to a defense.
It makes it much harder on the defensive backs. You go into a matchup with a receiver as a DB, you're thinking about the routes that he can run, and if it's a limited route tree, it makes it easier to defend. When it's an expanded route tree like Jerry, it makes it more difficult because, I think his first catch of the night last week was on a slant route, and it went for, 20 yards, whatever it was, and then making plays down the field as well. I think that just makes life more difficult for the DBs because they have to cover the entire field. I think Jerry's done a nice job. Mary Kay, I think back to the Thursday night game, winning at the top of the route on a deeper throw. I think that's something that he works on his craft. So when the ball is in the air, he's determined to come down with it.
Gee, Bush, I again, former first round pick that didn't live up to what everybody thought he should be, but I've been impressed with his hands. I know you hear he's a good route runner. There have been a drop or two, but he's made some catches. Degree of difficulty is pretty dang high, and he's had better hands than people gave him credit for, I think.
I think he's been a great beneficiary of Jameis Winston getting the ball out on time. Offensive lineman knowing where Jameis Winston will be in the backfield, getting the ball out on time and rhythm. And when you're trying to be a receiver, some receivers are built based on, hey, I know and can trust that when I get to you, you get to your third step, I'm breaking my route off and I'm sitting down in the zone or I'm continuing to go across the formation with man coverage. He's now a guy that looks comfortable in knowing what to expect from the quarterback. And he's also done a good job in the scramble drill. When things break down, he's been able to play a little bit of backyard football, find some voids and catch the football into, so have some nice run after catches. So, Jerry Jeudy is, and I think if you're Andrew Berry, this is one of those things where, Andrew Berry seems to be Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with a lot of different things, like between the trades he makes and the free agent deals that he makes and drafting are 3 completely different things, right? The trade that he's made for Amari Cooper and the trade for Jerry Jeudy seem to be really working out well for him. On the other end of the spectrum, sometimes when it comes to the draft, especially receivers, and when you look at free agency, sometimes that leaves a lot left to be desired, right? So for me, I think this is a move that Stefanski and Andrew Berry can hang their hat on, having some sort of foresight into saying, okay, well, let's go ahead and extend him right now because we feel like in our system he's going to thrive. So he's been a nice surprise. I think we had tempered our results and our expectations for what he was going to do based on some of the stuff that was coming out of Denver when we first had the trade. People were saying, well, beware, he's going to drop some balls. He's going to be underwhelming in certain games and certain aspects of the game. And so we were kind of holding our breath a little bit, but I think he's played much better when you see Jameis Winston and what he's been able to do and having a connection with him.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff. You and your family have a great Thanksgiving. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, G. Bush.
Happy holidays, everybody out there, man. Hey, say hello. If you ain't talked to a family member in a while, reach out. Happy Thanksgiving.
G. Bush, make sure you check him out, 92.3 The Barber Shop. Saturdays, noon until 12:30, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Monday through Friday at 11 until 1. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Rico. I'm hearing some media members and fans alike talking about let's not re-sign Winston and just move on from him. But the problem is that our roster is getting older. And I've seen something that says we're the 5th most expensive roster in the league. And we really won't have any way to acquire a top-tier quarterback. So in my opinion, why not just sign Winston to a team-friendly deal if he's willing to take it and roll with that? I understand that we just can't outright cut Watson, but they're between a rock and a hard place. I mean, do you just want to take the next 2 years and eat the cap hits that's going to happen just to get him off the books? Or do you want to keep restructuring his deal, which in turn will keep him on the books for a longer period of time? I mean, it is truly a tough decision, but if Winston plays well, I say sign him, draft the quarterback, and go from there. Thanks. What do you think?
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Tim, so if you restructure his contract, the cap hits go up, but the salary cap also goes up. So the percentage that you are taking up of the salary cap, i.e. your ability to spend on other positions, it's not taking up as high a percentage. That's the thought behind restructuring and kind of pushing it down and keeping him around even if you don't intend to play him.
Yeah, and it's going to be very curious what they decide to do with that contract next offseason because, I mean, I don't think there's any realistic universe where you move off from him after this season because even looking at overthecap.com, if you decided to make him a post-June 1st cut, you still have about $118 million of dead cap on your books right there. So you're basically kind of stuck in the situation where you just kind of have to live with the $70 plus million, almost $73 million cap hit he has going forward. And then maybe in 2026, if you decide to move off from him when you can make him a post-June 1st cut, you keep that dead cap on, but he's not on the roster. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. As for Jameis Winston, I certainly believe he's played well enough to deserve and to be a possible bridge quarterback going forward. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, but I think he's certainly played well in 3 of the 4 games he started to prove that, he could be at least, a bridge quarterback to another long-term answer for the position. The question is, where can they find one and how soon can they find one? Because when I look at this draft in particular, outside of Shadur Sanders and maybe Cam Ward, there really isn't much in this quarterback draft class to really get excited about.
So the Browns did make a roster move a little bit ago, not very long ago. They've claimed James Houston via waivers from the Lions. That's the same team they traded Zadarius Smith, so it's 2. So kind of one veteran guy for another veteran guy. And again, I'm sure it's keep a healthy body, keep rotating in. Jim Schwartz likes to play a lot of defensive linemen. So.
Yeah, especially, with Myles Garrett, you already have Obo Okoronkwo and Isaiah McGuire as well getting a lot more playing time, particularly McGuire. Seems like he's getting better and better as he gets out there. So Houston's a guy who really kind of raised a lot of eyebrows as a rookie in his first season in Detroit. 8 sacks in 7 games, former 6th-round pick in 2022, but he's only played 10 games since then, has 1 sack since then. So, this is just kind of a lottery ticket, throw a waiver claim out there, see if you can, find something as far as rotational piece is concerned. So pretty much low risk, decent reward type of move there for the Browns.
All right, so this is from Computer Cowboy, market-derived team tiers. So top tier are the contenders. Second tier is the Super Bowl aspirations. No one knows what to think of these guys as third. It's so over. The Browns are in the dead/bad quarterback tier. Saints, Titans, Jaguars, with Trevor Lawrence, by the way, and the Browns. At least they're not in the draft is on April 24th this year with Cowboys, Raiders, Patriots, Giants, and Panthers. But again, it hasn't been a great year, and you point to the quarterback play. It's really not that difficult to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the first 7 games of the season when Deshaun Watson played, by and large, it hasn't looked good. In the last 4 games with Jameis Winston, it's looked more like a professional offense. You've seen Jameis Winston go out and make some plays, especially in the Baltimore game. I mean, they probably don't win that game against the Ravens without Jameis Winston, especially in that last-minute touchdown drive to Cedric Tillman. Steelers, I know he had, a couple turnovers in that game, but still led that game-winning touchdown drive, that famous 4th down touchdown drive now. Certainly, I think he's, brought some life to this offense. And if nothing else, I think going forward, the fact that Winston's playing as well as he has, I think makes the Browns a team that can spoil some playoff successes, especially, the Steelers are still on the schedule again. The Ravens are still on the schedule again. They have an opportunity to play a little spoiler. And if nothing else, in a lost season, the fact that they've already beaten the Steelers and the Ravens, it's a little something to salvage out of it. And it's good for Jameis Winston that he's showing that he still has plenty left in the tank.
Along those lines, this from Pro Football Focus. Observations on every team after Week 12. Browns, there's been a change at quarterback, and it's pretty noticeable in Cleveland. Watson, a 7.1 average depth of target. Jameis Winston has come in with a remarkable 10.6. So 3.5 yards longer in the depth per target. Only Anthony Richardson has a higher number. Now the fact that you had me until you said only Anthony Richardson has thrown it deeper, which I'm not a fan, but it has been noticeable that Jameis is getting the ball downfield.
Yeah, I'm even looking at the numbers on Pro Football Reference for Jameis Winston. He already has more passing yards in 4 starts. Granted, 9 games played, but by and large, he's really played the vast majority of only 4. Already has more yards than Deshaun Watson. Winston already 7 touchdown passes to just 5 for Deshaun Watson, and all that with only 1 more interception than Deshaun Watson has. So you look at pretty much the metrics across the board. Winston has just simply been better this year than Deshaun Watson. You can even see it in the eye test. The offense just looks better. It just looks crisper. They're able to make plays. They were perfect, I believe, on Thursday night on 4th down, even though they didn't hit a 3rd down conversion until the final 2 minutes of the game. The fact that the offense has been able to put up a pair of 400-yard games, 2 20-point games, which they haven't done the entire season under Deshaun Watson, it just shows you that Jameis Winston is certainly just simply playing better football than Deshaun Watson in the first 7 games. What does that mean going forward? I don't know, but certainly you cannot deny the difference Jameis Winston has made for this offense.
So, yeah, I mean, the Browns' offense seems to respond with Jameis Winston at quarterback. He was mic'd up for the Steelers game. Let's listen into a little bit of that 4th quarter where they won the game.
180! What's motions to the left. Winston to throw. 4th down. Winston under pressure. Scrambling. Pump fake. He's going to run. He jumps. Touchdown!
Let's go!
4th down!
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go. 2. What's that?
Jameis shotgun, 2-point conversion. Looking left, throwing high. Njoku, does he come down with it? Yes, sir!
You know I don't discriminate. Let's go.
Hey,
Yeah. Thank you, Lord. Yes, sir. Let's go. Let's go, baby. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I need a new helmet. Good job. I need a new helmet. I got you. I need a new helmet.
Let's go.
Trenches win.
Hey, fix your helmet.
The trench. I need a new one.
You having fun?
Yes.
You can't see shit on there.
No.
You may have to run on those keepers, which is fine.
Yeah,
okay?
I got
Get
you.
down and take care of yourself.
I got you. 180.
Jameis the snap. Give to Chubb. Chubb running. Chubb, touchdown. Nick Chubb did it. He stayed on his feet.
Boy, I love you, boy.
We're going for 2. We're going for 2.
Thank you. Let's go. Thank you, boy. I love you.
And Tim, the thing that, I mean, you can tell the team responds to him. That's part of what you want to see from a quarterback. And I'm not saying we didn't see that with Deshaun Watson, but you didn't see it to that level.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can even just see, like, even in the pregame interviews with Jameis Winston, he looks like he's having the time of his life right now. You know, just talking before the game, how excited he was to be playing in the snow for the first time in his life. You get to see the infectious energy he plays with, and the team certainly has responded around him. Again, you could just see it with just the energy they play with. Again, not to say that they weren't playing with the same energy under Deshaun Watson. I'm not trying to say that, but you can clearly tell that this team is just much better offensively. They're responding to Jameis Winston. And there's a lot of great leadership that you see with him. And certainly there's a reason that a lot of people like him, and you see it out there on the field, that he's got this reserve of energy that he just keeps tapping into, and he just genuinely looks like he's having fun out there. And again, even you could see that stuff in the pre and post game stuff when he's throwing snowballs with the Amazon Prime guys after the game and things like that. It's just a different kind of energy that he brings to the quarterback position. And like we said, the Browns offense is playing some of its best football of the entire season, And I think Jameis Winston and that energy is a big reason why.
So this one is from PFF as well, Pro Football Focus. One move every AFC team wishes it had made prior to the 2024 season. Browns, they say, draft an offensive lineman earlier. Massive problem on Cleveland's offense stems from the line that ranked 30th in PFF overall grade. Injuries at left tackle, declining play from Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller have been critical. Cleveland didn't pick until 54 overall. It still missed out on options like Tanner Boratelli instead of Zach Zinter, who has not been effective. Dismal 43.9 and 35.0 passing grade. Again, Zinter, I don't think they ever intended to play this season. So, the line was a problem. I don't know if drafting a lineman earlier would have been the solution. The solution would have been, I keep going back, how did you not know that all three of the injured tackles weren't going to be ready? That you were going to be trying to piecemeal together your tackle position early in the season? That's the problem.
Yeah, we've talked about that for months. I figured a signing like Donovan Smith would have made a ton of sense just to add some depth and protect themselves at tackle. The one good piece of news they've had there is Jack Conklin. Since he's come back, we really haven't heard much about him, which if you're an offensive lineman, that's a good thing. Then your name really isn't brought up. But even when you're talking about Zach Zinter, I think I kind of said the same thing when he got drafted. He's coming off a broken tibia and fibula. They actually suffered almost 2 days to the year. This is against the Michigan game. This was the Michigan-Ohio State game. Suffered the broken tibia, broken fibula. I said about that time, this would have been a good year to redshirt Zach Zinter. Let him get stronger. Let him get used to practicing and working with a professional offensive line and those sorts of things. And they put him out there. They were forced to put him out there early because of injury. He didn't play well. And I think there's certainly reason for that, because maybe he just needs to get stronger. So that's the way I kind of look at it there. And when you talk about what the Browns could have done in the draft, remember, they only had 5 picks in the draft. They didn't have a pick until number 54, which is actually the earliest they've had since their first round pick. Beg your pardon, 6 picks they had in the draft. So really only so much they could do with it, especially just 2 picks in the first 4 rounds. They pretty much had very little to work with. So I mean, you can only do so much with limited draft capital.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, talk a little bit more about the Broncos game. Sports for CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
I just picked up all the Ohio Lottery holiday scratch-offs.
They're multiplying.
Yeah, multiplying. With the chance to multiply my prize by 200 times with holiday bonus millions.
No, they're multiplying.
Oh, you're in a daze.
A holidays.
Snap out of it, because even if we don't win instantly, all the holiday games offer a second chance to win up to 1,000 times the price of the ticket.
Wait, did you say up to 1,000 times?
Sure did.
We continue talking Browns with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
So here's an idea. We probably should draft a quarterback, but not at the top of the draft, somewhere in the middle of the draft. I would recommend drafting that Penn State quarterback. He's an Ohio native. Drew Allers is his name. He's a big boy, pretty solid player, and someone that you can bring along slowly behind Jameis for a year or so, maybe two. Anyways, that could be our future franchise quarterback. Seems to check a lot of boxes. Anyways, just food for thought. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Tim, Drew Allers, a couple of years of eligibility left. I imagine he goes back because if he gets in an offense where they let him throw the ball downfield, he can throw the ball downfield. For whatever reason, it hadn't happened yet at Penn State. I saw him play quite a bit at Medina, and I think he is an NFL quarterback. I thought he was an NFL quarterback when he was in high school. He needs to keep going back because his arm talent, and he has the ability to be a first-round pick if he and I think he has 2 years of eligibility left at least.
Yeah, he's a junior this year, so he can definitely play one more season after this one. But I think with Drew Aller, yeah, I don't think he should be coming in the draft this year. I think he should stay in Penn State one more season. I'm with you. They need to really let him air it out more. I mean, you look at his numbers for this season, already completed 72% of his passes, so his completion percentage has really skyrocketed this year. Quarterback rating has gone up. Touchdown interception ratio not nearly as good. 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But I think there's a lot he needs to work on. And that really, when I look at this quarterback class, outside of Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward, there's a lot of guys with a lot of question marks. Maybe Jalen Milroe's the only other guy I would consider taking in the first round, and that would be late first round if he, depending on how you feel about his development or whatever. But there's a lot of questions with the back half of this class. There's really not a lot of guys that stand out as super exciting, super really guys that you feel have a great chance to be successful. I mean, if you're a team like the Browns, you want to take a swing at a guy, I'd be willing to take a swing at a guy like Curtis Worker from Indiana, who really has shown he can play at that level, be very competitive at a Big Ten school. I think what hurt him against Ohio State is going against that superior talent Ohio State has compared to Indiana. We saw that talent difference play out, and as good as he's played, you can only do so much if you don't have the guys on that side of the football to compete with what a team like Ohio State is defensively. So that would be a guy I would look at. But outside of those top 2, maybe 3 guys, there's not a lot in this class that is really exciting.
Yeah, and again, I don't see Aller coming out because I think he could end up being a guy that, when all is said and done, he ends up being a first-round draft pick. Kevin Stefanski talked about Sean Payton's offense as well as what he's seen from the rookie quarterback Bo Nix for the Broncos.
I think they're playing very, very efficiently. He's making great decisions with the ball, not turning it over. He's taking shots to Courtland Sutton, which is a very difficult cover for anybody. They're running the ball. They have multiple guys they can get the ball to, and then he's a very good scrambler. He's outstanding off schedule. So just what they're doing is very efficient.
You say are like characteristics of a Sean Payton offense from time in New Orleans to the time here?
Multiple personnel groupings. That's one thing that coach does a great job of. And then they do a really nice job schematically, both in the run and the pass. There's reason behind everything what they're doing and trying to get a guy open in the pass game or scheme up a run in the run game.
So, Tim, this kind of goes into the article you wrote, 3 things you need to know about. So the Week 13 opponent, the Broncos. And the first one was Bo Nix is the real deal. So take us through that.
Well, if those of you that have read my preview, you will know I have made my apology for being very wrong about Bo Nix way back in April. I basically said at the time I said it was a panic pick. I thought, especially after when the Falcons took Michael Penix Jr., I thought this was kind of just taking a quarterback just for taking a quarterback's sake. And he certainly has proven me wrong, especially the last 3 weeks. You look at the numbers, 8 touchdown passes, no interceptions. So he has done an outstanding job protecting the football. He was a hyper-accurate quarterback coming out of Oregon. And really the last 2 seasons at Oregon really turned his career around after being great at Auburn initially and then really struggling the next 2 seasons. And you look at the last 2 games he's played, 307 yards, 4 touchdowns against the Falcons, 273 and 2 touchdowns against the Raiders, 215 and 2 TDs against the Chiefs. And if Kansas City doesn't block that field goal, we're talking about an 8-4 Broncos team that is absolutely red hot coming into this Monday Night Football game. Bo Nix certainly struggled early on in his regular season, but it seems like things have slowed down for him, and he's doing an outstanding job of protecting the football. So this is not going to be an easy test.
No, and he might get a college football pension because he played so long. Your other two, Denver's defense has had a massive turnaround, and Nick Bonito having a breakout season. So take us through those two. They're somewhat related.
Yeah. So with number 2, I mentioned this before. It was only a year ago, if we remember. I think it was week 3 of that season when the Miami Dolphins put up 70 points on the Denver Broncos defense. 70. And as I said, you fast forward to this year, and this defense, the Broncos defense looks almost unrecognizable in the best way possible. They came into, Sunday in the top 5 in a lot of big defensive categories. Right now, they're 3rd in the NFL in scoring defense, 3rd in yardage defense, 2nd in pass yards allowed per attempt, 4th in rush yards allowed per attempt. This is just a defense that just does not allow you to gain yards and pretty much suppresses you. That's just what makes them so tough, is they really just make it hard for you to really move the ball or do anything consistently against them. Looking at their numbers, the last 3 games they played, the Chiefs only got 16 points. The Falcons had just 6. The Raiders 19. So they've done a really good job of limiting their opposition around them. And then also you look at number 3, I mentioned Nick Bonito. This was a guy who was a 2nd-round pick just a couple of years ago. In his third year, Bonito is having a big season. He's already got 10 sacks. That's tied with Myles Garrett for 3rd in the NFL. This is a Broncos team that really gets after the quarterback. 44 sacks on the season. Bonito has been awesome this year. The former Oklahoma linebacker certainly coming into his own this year. His 64th overall pick back in 2022. 8 sacks last season, so you could tell this was kind of coming along for him, but now he's really emerged as a really talented edge rusher. They've also got another edge rusher. A lot of people around Northeast Ohio probably know very well. Former Ohio State guy and Jonathan Cooper with 7 sacks, but Bonito's really been one of the breakout players in the NFL in terms of pass rushers this season. And if the Browns are going to be able to move the football, you got to know where Nick Bonito is, and you got to find a way to slow him down.
Tim Bielik, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Have a great holiday this weekend. Thanks very much, Tim.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well as all the other viewers out there.
Tim Bielik, make sure you check him out. Always really good Brown stuff for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Ohio State Buckeyes getting ready to take on Michigan's Stephen Means, Buckeyes beat reporter from cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. Straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. Turn our attention to the Ohio State Buckeyes getting ready for Michigan coming up Saturday. Buckeyes head coach Ryan Day on how the Buckeyes are approaching the Michigan game.
They don't need any extra motivation. What they have to do is do a great job of preparing themselves, their mind, their body, and soul to go play the game, and then trust their training. And that's really what it comes down to. All the work that's been done to get to this point, now you have to go back to, trusting your training, because that's really how it works. You hear about the Navy SEALs saying you fall to the level of your training. All the work that's been done, you've seen us talk about our bricks and our foundation and all those things. It's all leading to this point right here. And so you can't just all of a sudden turn it on in a few days for one game. It doesn't work that way. The way we play is going to be because of how we've built our foundation up to this point. And everything in the entire program has been built to win this game. And so now we just have to trust that and go play with confidence, with great energy, with great passion, and playing for your brothers, and everybody just doing their job. Like, I think sometimes it's easy in a game like this to try to do something, extraordinary. The only thing that needs to be extraordinary is their effort. Everything else, they just need to do their job.
Let's welcome in Stephen Means, Buckeyes beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. And Stephen, Ryan Day did not downplay the significance of Michigan. He's lost the last 3 games to Michigan, and it's just interesting. You hear a lot of different perspectives on, well, you don't put everything into one game, but they're putting everything into this game.
Yeah, you don't put in everything into one game unless it's the game on the end of your schedule at the end of November, right? You spend 365 days putting in a lot of work to get to this game. You put all the effort into it. Everything from the amount of guys who put off the NFL to come back and play on this roster. Will Howard, Caleb Downs, Quinshon Judkins, all getting them out the transfer portal, even Seth McLaughlin, even though unfortunately he won't play in this game as he's out with a season-ending injury. Everything has been about getting here, and now we are here. So this might be the most emotional Ohio State-Michigan game that we've seen since Ryan Day's first Ohio State-Michigan game. If you remember, after that game, you could almost see the relief on his face that he didn't lose that game. And just given everything that's happened since then, the game getting canceled in 2020, the 3 straight losses, the Connor Stallion saga, the born on third base comments, everything has created this Ohio State football team that you're going to be looking at on Saturday. And now it gets a chance to go up against a Michigan team who might already look like a wounded animal.
What do you expect? When you look at this game, and you're as close to it as anybody, what do you expect Saturday?
I'm not expecting Ohio State to lose, but I am expecting Michigan to make it weird. And that's often what can happen in rivalry games, even when the game is a blowout, is your rival can sometimes do some things simply because it's a rivalry game and the weird things happen. And so we've seen trick plays. We've seen fights over the years. We've seen guys get ejected over the years. I'm not saying all that's going to happen, but I think just from a football standpoint, Ohio State, there's just nothing on paper that suggests that Ohio State is in any danger of losing this game. And so now it becomes a conversation of Sharon Moore in this offense, the defense. What does Michigan maybe have up its sleeve that it's been preparing for about a year now to throw out into this game that makes it maybe a little bit more interesting, because rivalry games can often come down to that.
So Ryan Day talked about the importance for the Buckeyes winning up front, both sides of the ball.
Well, that's how you control the game on both sides of the ball. So that's something that has to be done. And you just look historically that's how you win the game. But that's not the only thing. There's a lot that comes with it. And so, like every game we go into, we'll work hard to do what we think best helps us win the game. But yeah, the team who runs the ball and the team who stops the run is going to win the game.
And Steve, what are you paying attention to early? You mentioned, the injury to McLaughlin. Buckeyes are beat up on the offensive line. They found a way to beat Indiana, a pretty good Indiana team. But what are you paying attention to early?
Yeah, for starters, Ryan Day's right. I think 10 of the last 11, or maybe it's 11 straight years, who's ever run the rushing battle has ended up winning this game. So it is going to be up front. Obviously, Ohio State started the year with an offensive line from left to right of Josh Simmons, Donovan Jackson, Seth McLaughlin, the Alabama transfer, Tegra Shabola, and Josh Fryer. And then Joshua Simmons, who's in his second year here, started his career at San Diego State. He gets hurt halfway through the Oregon game. And so you throw out Zen Maholsky, who's been developing the background, a fourth-year guy here on the roster. He's your starting tackle heading into the Nebraska game. He didn't look great even before he got hurt, but then he suffers an injury that knocks him out for an extended period of time. And so now what you have is you've got your 3-year starting left guard playing left tackle. You've got your starting center from 2023, who's now your backup center playing left guard, and you've got Seth McLaughlin, Tegra Shabola, and Josh Fryer. And you thought you'd figure some things out, and then 3 days before the Indiana game, Seth McLaughlin suffers a Achilles injury that takes him out for the year. So now here's what you got. Your left guard is your left tackle. You've got a second-year guard who started the first 2 games of the season, is now playing in his 4th start in Austin Sarabel at left guard. Carson Hinton's back at center. While the right side, they just keep escaping all this stuff. Tegra Shabola and Josh Fryer are still over there. So we've seen the makeshift offensive line. It worked against Penn State. It worked against Indiana. And now can it work in this game? Though unlike the Indiana and Penn State game, the questions aren't going to be on the edge. It's not going to be about, hey, can Josh Fryer and Donovan Jackson slow down some Indiana defensive ends, or Penn State's Abdul Carter. It's going to be on the interior with Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, 2 guys who I think have first-round potential, especially Mason Graham, going up against a Tegra Shabola who's playing in the game for the first time, even though he's been in the program for 3 years and making his 12th start. Carson Hinton's at least played in this game before, so he has a little bit of experience, but he's been playing left guard for the past month. And then Austin Sarabel, he's in his 2nd year here, but this is only his 4th start, and really before this year, he had no snaps, and so he's going through this for the first time. So could Ohio State find a way to overcome its makeshift offensive line once again? Can Chip Kelly and Ryan Day scheme up some things so that's not a problem, even if it's not 100% a plus for you on Saturday?
All right, so what do you expect to see from quarterback Will Howard, and then who are some guys that you think need to step up for the Buckeyes to do what they want to do, which is get a win and head to the Big Ten championship game?
Yeah, I think Will Howard has been substantially better than maybe we all expected him to be, maybe even than they expected him to be. I think coming into the season, it was a lot of, hey, you don't have to be Superman. Hey, you don't have to do anything extra. Just make the smart decision and let the weapons be the weapons, right? And there's some truth to that. But I think since the Oregon loss, and really since the Penn State win, where he didn't always look great, he has started to be more than just simple. He is starting to raise the level of play from this offense, and we saw that on display against Indiana, where he was out there making plays both with his arm and with his leg. And so I'm kind of shocked he's not in the Heisman Trophy conversation right now, especially coming off of that Indiana game. I think maybe he comes out of this game, if he has another repeat performance like that, maybe he's in the conversation. Or maybe if they win this game and get to Indianapolis next weekend and they get a rematch with Oregon, it comes down to him and Dylan Gabriel for a spot in New York as a Heisman Trophy candidate. But he is a very underrated candidate there. And in terms of his weapons, I mean, he's got every weapon you can think of. It starts with the 2 running backs, TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, 2 of the 5 best running backs in the country. TreVeyon Henderson, this is the healthiest he's ever been at this point in the season, and it shows with how they've used him, not just as a runner, but as a pass catcher, but then also as a kick return specialist as well. And I think Quinshon Judkins has been everything that people thought he was down there at Ole Miss, and maybe even more since he's not having to carry the load and have 250 carries a season. And obviously on the perimeter, Emeka Egbuka being healthy, we've seen kind of getting a reminder of what he was in 2022 as a 1,000-yard receiver. I think Carnell Tate's probably the most underrated receiver in college football. This is a dude who's wide receiver 3 here, when I think everywhere outside of Alabama with Ryan Williams, he might be their wide receiver 1. And then Jeremiah Smith's a freak of nature. He is, I mean, for a team who just lost Marvin Harrison Jr., this kid has us all going Marvin Harrison Jr. who. So offensively, Will Howard's been better than expected. And then if he's not, he's got every NFL weapon you can think of to make things go when maybe he's not having his best day. So offensively, this shouldn't be much of a problem for Ohio State, even if Michigan's better unit is their defensive unit.
All right, before I let you go, Ohio State ranked 2nd in the college football rankings because Oregon's won and unbeaten. Right. And because of the seeding, the top 4 conference champions get the 4 byes. How important is it for Ohio State to get back to the Big Ten championship and maybe get one of those top 4 seeds, win the Big Ten, beat Oregon, relative to the college football playoff?
They haven't won the Big Ten since 2020, right? And that was a weird COVID year. They haven't won the Big Ten in a normal season since 2019, Ryan Day's first season here. And they need to get back to that, right? When he took over this program, and really his first 2 years, they were the class of the Big Ten, and obviously that hasn't been the case for the last 3 years. So just for that alone, they need to get back to Indianapolis and win a Big Ten championship while also avenging a 1-point loss to Oregon, which essentially came down to, did Will Howard get down in time for them to get a field goal out there? I think in terms of the seeding, I don't know. It's weird and maybe too early to tell. And I do think that maybe there needs to be some revisions to how they seed things. You see in the NFL where the top seed's always playing the lowest seed that's available. Maybe we go to that, because right now I think there's two extreme arguments being made, because whoever wins that game is going to get the number 1 seed and the loser is going to be the 5 seed. And so the question is, which is actually the easier path when if you're the 5 seed, yeah, you have to play an extra game, but your first round game's at home and it's against a 12 seed team that maybe has 3 losses. And your second round game is against, conference champ, but it's not the Big Ten conference champ and it's not the SEC conference champ. So maybe that's an easier path to get to the semifinal. Or you take the case of, you take the bye, it's 1 extra game you don't have to play, not 1 extra game where you have to put your players in harm's way and things can go wrong. But also, you might be playing a tougher opponent, whoever wins in the first round. So it's important because they need to win the Big Ten. There's no way around that. And the bye could probably do this team some good in terms of making sure guys stay healthy, especially when you've already lost two-fifths of your offensive line this year. But I'm still not sure we're going to know completely whether having the number 1 seed or the number 5 seed in this year, which is actually better, until we see how some of this stuff plays out.
Yeah, it will be interesting, and I get what you're saying completely. Stephen Means, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Stephen.
Anytime.
Stephen Means, make sure you check him out. Great Buckeyes coverage, pages of the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. No shows tomorrow or Friday. Enjoy Thanksgiving with your family. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock on Sports for CLE. Have a great Thanksgiving weekend, everyone.